Here's what I see. I see two organizations formed in the last year or so of President Biden's administration. On their IRS filings, they say we have no experience, we have no accomplishments. One of them only has $100 in the bank. One of them, senior counsel, is Ms. Stacey Abrams, a well-known Democratic politician. I see them asking the President of the United States and his EPA for $2 billion cash to fight gas stoves and getting it to the exclusion of every other applicant who might have been able to use that money. Now, this is just the beginning of the type of spending porn that President Trump and Mr. Musk are uncovering, that people are screaming about. I'm going to repeat what I started with. There's nothing wrong with wanting to know what they do and did with our money. And that's all President Trump and Mr. Musk are doing.
This is one of those moments that perfectly captures what's wrong with Washington. While Americans are drowning in debt, Senator John Kennedy calmly lays out a story so outrageous it sounds made up, and yet every detail comes straight from government filings. What you're about to hear is why so many people no longer trust how their money is being spent.
Senator from Louisiana.
Thank you, Mr. President. In March of 2023, not that long ago, Ms. Abrams went to work for an organization, a nonprofit, called Rewiring America. You've probably seen that name in the news. Rewiring America. Ms. Abrams' title, she went to work for Rewiring America, her title was Senior Counsel. She was paid for her work for Rewiring America. We don't know how much, though there'll probably be an investigation to find out. Now, nonprofits like Rewiring America, Ms. Abrams' group, they have to file documents with the IRS. And one of the documents they have to file is called Form 990. This form by the IRS asks a number of questions about nonprofits. One of the questions the IRS asks is where it is for the organization, the nonprofit, to list its accomplishments. Rewiring America, Ms. Abrams' group, told the IRS in 2023 on this Form 990 that Rewiring America was, quote, this was Rewiring America's, quote, startup year for the organization. And the form goes on to say that the only accomplishment Rewiring America listed was that it had, quote, joined a coalition of other national organizations to apply for a grant from the Inflation Reduction Act's Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund. In other words, Ms. Abrams' organization told the IRS that this filing was their first ever tax filing in 2023, that the organization was a startup, and its purpose was exclusively to seek a grant from President Biden's Inflation Reduction Act. Fair enough. So what do we know about this coalition that Ms. Abrams' group wanted to form? Rewiring America, Ms. Abrams' group, announced on October 12, 2023, that it was joining Habitat for Humanity, it was joining United Way Worldwide, and two other organizations. And these four organizations were going to form another nonprofit, a coalition of nonprofits called Power Forward Communities. So you've got Power Forward Communities up here, you've got Rewiring America and some other organizations down here. And all together they make up Power Forward Communities. And they also announced that a gentleman by the name of Tim Mayopoulos, a former Obama administration appointee, would lead the coalition. Now, as a nonprofit, I told you that Rewiring America had to file forms with the IRS. Well, so did this new group, Power Forward. It had to file Form 990 as well with the IRS. According to its filings, Power Forward had just $100 in total revenues in 2023. According to the IRS filing, it didn't list a single accomplishment. I've seen Girl Scout troops with more business credentials. Yet Power Forward Communities, of which Ms. Abrams' Rewiring America was a part, had the audacity to ask the federal government for a $2 billion grant. For what, you ask? It was supposed to be for, quote, to expand access to clean energy by prioritizing housing, equity, and resilience. Power Forward Communities said it wanted to take this taxpayer money and help people install energy-efficient upgrades to their homes. What are we talking about? Heat pumps. Get rid of gas stoves. Now, it's good to dream big in America. I'm all for that. But under any reasonable standard, Mr. President, under any reasonable standard, one is entitled to ask how these organizations, Ms. Abrams' Rewiring America and Power Forward Communities, brand new organizations, no business experience, $100 in the bank, are qualified to receive $2 billion of taxpayer money from the Biden administration. Now, that didn't stop the Biden administration from cutting a check, though. They took our money and gave Power Forward Communities in Rewiring America $2 billion. You want to know how we ran up $36 billion in debt? That's how. Now, the EPA announced in 2024 under President Biden, just 6 months after Power Forward was formed. Power Forward was formed, and 6 months later, President Biden and his team announced they were giving them $2 billion, and that's, as I said, that's B with a billion. Now, look, I try to see the world from other people's bell towers as much as I can. But I cannot come up with, not for the life of me, with a single rational justification as to why the EPA under the Biden administration thought it was appropriate to give Power Forward and Rewiring America to brand new business, or brand new nonprofits with no business experience, no accomplishments according to the IRS forms, and only $100 in the bank to give them $2 billion of taxpayer money, especially to the exclusion of every other qualified applicant for that money, if there were any other qualified applicants. We don't know. I don't know. I don't know if there was a competitive bid. Now, I do know that the EPA, under President Biden, gave Ms. Abrams' group, her two groups, $2 billion cash. In the grant approval, President Biden's EPA said that Power Forward had to allocate this money to get rid of stoves and to put in heat pumps. They had to allocate the money. They had to spend it in 21 days. Now, that meant that Ms. Abrams' group, Rewiring America, which was part of the larger group, likely received or was supposed to receive a check for $490 million, about a quarter of the total $2 billion, by the end of May 2024. And the other organizations, within 21 days, President Biden directed, were also supposed to receive their share of the money. But get this. President Biden and his team directed these NGOs to distribute $2 billion in 21 days. But the Biden administration also told Power Forward within 90 days to go take a course. You know what the course was? The name of the course was How to Develop a Budget. How to develop a budget. So President Biden gave power forward 21 days to spend the money, but said, you've got 90 days to go take a course about how to put together a budget. And why would anybody in the Milky Way give $2 billion of taxpayer money to two organizations that had just been formed, that according to the IRS filings had no accomplishments, and one of them only had $100 in the bank? I think I know why. I certainly know what it looks like. I mean, this would be comical if it wasn't so odious. $2 billion. You know, the last 4 years under the last administration have been very difficult for America. The cost of everything's gone up. The cost of many things have gone up by 20%, and our wages didn't keep up. The average electricity bill in America went up 19%. The average Louisianian, because of President Biden's inflation, had to spend an extra $890 a month, extra, for food and clothing and car notes, and they didn't get $890 a month raise. President Biden and my Democratic colleagues told us that the Inflation Reduction Act, I remember when it was passed, they said if you spend $1.2 trillion on the Inflation Reduction Act, it'll be a lifeline to every family in America. It's not what it looks like to me. Starting to look like to me that it was really a slush fund. A slush fund for Washington insiders. Now, I don't want to make accusations that are unfair. I think EPA Administrator Zeldin needs to get to the bottom of this. I believe in fairness. I believe in due process. Mr. Zeldin has announced that he's going to try to claw back as much of this $2 billion and other monies as he can. And again, I think he ought to do it fairly and accord everybody due process. But you know what? If the shoe fits, wear it, Cinderella. Here's what I see. I see two organizations formed in the last year or so of President Biden's administration. On their IRS filings, they say we have no experience, we have no accomplishments. One of them only has $100 in the bank. One of them, senior counsel, is Ms. Stacey Abrams, a well-known Democratic politician. I see them asking the President of the United States and his EPA for $2 billion cash to fight gas stoves and getting it to the exclusion of every other applicant who might have been able to use that money. Now, this is just the beginning of the type of spending porn that President Trump and Mr. Musk are uncovering, that people are screaming about. I'm going to repeat what I started with. There's nothing wrong with wanting to know what they do and did with our money. And that's all President Trump and Mr. Musk are doing. Mr. President.
Before we get into it, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next breakdown. It helps the channel grow and keeps these stories in front of more Americans who actually care about the truth. All right, let's talk about this moment from the Senate floor where John Kennedy does what he does best. He takes complex government nonsense and exposes it in plain English. Kennedy starts by reminding everyone why President Trump promised to review every penny of federal spending. The national debt is now over $36 trillion, growing by billions every single day. That's not an abstract number. That's money your kids and grandkids are going to be stuck paying back. And instead of Washington welcoming scrutiny, Kennedy points out how the political class completely melts down the moment someone starts asking where the money went. They aren't angry about waste. They're angry that the waste is being exposed. Then Kennedy drops the real bombshell. A $2 billion EPA grant approved under the Biden administration was handed to a brand new nonprofit tied to Stacey Abrams. Not a decades-old organization with a proven track record. A startup. According to IRS filings, this group, Rewiring America, described 2023 as its startup year. No accomplishments. No experience running large programs. And yet, Abrams was working there as senior counsel. That organization then joined a coalition called Power Forward Communities. And here's where it gets absurd. According to their own filings, Power Forward had just $100 in revenue. Not a typo. $100. No major accomplishments. No serious financial history. And yet the Biden EPA approved a $2 billion grant to this coalition to push green energy projects like eliminating gas stoves and installing heat pumps. Kennedy makes the obvious point that Washington refuses to answer. How does a group with no track record, no experience, and no money get handed $2 billion of taxpayer cash? It gets worse. The EPA reportedly told these groups they had just 21 days to allocate the funds, but also instructed them to take a budgeting course within 90 days. Think about that. Spend billions immediately, but learn how to budget later. This is exactly why Americans are furious. Groceries are up. Electricity bills are up. Wages haven't kept pace. And yet Washington insiders seem to have no problem cutting massive checks to politically connected groups while regular families struggle. Kennedy isn't calling for mob justice. He's calling for accountability. He wants the EPA to investigate, to claw back the money if wrongdoing is found, and to finally treat taxpayer dollars with the respect they deserve. This is what exposing the swamp actually looks like. Not slogans. Not talking points. Real numbers. Real documents. Real accountability. And the reaction from the left tells you everything. They aren't defending the spending. They're attacking the people who uncovered it.